All right, we're live now. Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Brady. I'm the Youth Engagement Coordinator for NYC Votes at the New York City Campaign Finance Board, and I'm super excited to bring to you a collaboration with the Department of Youth and Community Development and Y Vote. We're going to be having an amazing conversation, a youth-driven conversation about ranked choice voting in the upcoming election. So I will let our guests introduce themselves. Madina, I'll kick it over to you first.
Sure. Hi, my name is Madina. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. So I'm actually part of Y Vote, uh, specifically the activist track. And within that, we meet bi-weekly. And in their specific groups, I'm part of the racial justice group. So through the lens of that, we get to talk about Black, Indigenous, people of color, and especially the youth of those communities, and lift their voices, have them heard, talk about them in a way to empower those.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Abastiona. I am a social media manager and proofreader, and I am part of the We the Youth team. And essentially, I just love being part of a community and something that is improving our surrounding and our way of living, and including youth and giving youth a voice, and really just getting to know what's most important and what the youth think, because we are the future. We are now. So if you get to hear our opinions and the opinions of youth, I think everyone's just going to benefit from it.
And I'm Ali Swadek. I'm the Director of Policy and Research at the New York City Campaign Finance Board. I'm really excited to answer your questions about ranked choice voting. I've been talking about it all day, so give me your best questions.
All right, and with that, I'm going to kick it over to Madina to ask our first question of the evening.
Sure. Okay. So my first question here is are the Director of Policy and Research for ranked choice voting. I just wanted to quickly describe what.
I think Madina cut out, but is also on mute right now.
That is, you're on mute, Madina.
I just said, I don't know if you were able to hear me. I just said, can you briefly describe what ranked choice voting is?
Yeah, of course. So great starting question. What is ranked choice voting? So ranked choice voting is a new way for voters in New York City to elect their representatives. And it's just specifically representatives in special and primary elections who are running for city offices. So that's mayor, public advocate, comptroller, borough president, and all 51 city council members. So ranked choice voting can be described very simply as voters can now rank up to 5 candidates in order of preference instead of just choosing one candidate. And the reason why you want to do that is, and the reason why ranked choice voting was voted on by voters, by 74% of New Yorkers who voted in favor of changing our electoral system to use ranked choice voting, is that it gives voters more say in who wins, it increases civility, and it can lead to more diverse candidates winning. So we're really excited to be in charge of doing the education and outreach component for ranked choice voting. And voters love those reasons for why ranked choice voting is the way that we're going to be voting this year in 2021.
That is really, really amazing. You actually answered that so well that you answered the question I had. So, so I suppose now, like, my next question would be, since it is selected based on, you know, ranking from 1 to 5, how is the results determined? Like, how is the selection determined?
Yeah, so I'll go through a really basic description of how the tabulation process works. So the first thing that happens is all first choice votes are counted. So if voters are ranking candidates from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everyone's first choice column is tabulated. And if there's someone who received more than 50% of the vote, if a candidate receives more than 50% of the vote, obviously they're the winner. No one else could receive more votes than them. That's just the laws of mathematics. I keep saying that. I don't think that's a real thing, but I'm just gonna keep saying it. You can't have more than 100%. So I'm sorry, you can't have more than 50%. You can't beat that candidate. So that candidate would immediately win. But if no one does receive more than 50%, we go through a ranked choice voting tabulation process. And what happens next is each round, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated. But what that means is that candidate lost. So they're eliminated. The voters who chose that candidate, their vote goes to the next highest ranked candidate on each of their ballots. So that repeats until, so each round, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, they lost. The voters who voted for that candidate have their vote redistributed to their next highest ranking. And that keeps going until there's only 2 candidates left. The candidate with the most votes wins. So it's simple once you get the hang of it. And some folks need to, I'm talking to you about it and you're hearing me explain it, but some folks need a visualization. Our website is a great resource for that. And then we'll also have a video available soon. So there's a lot of different ways to learn about it. And if you don't get it at first, it's okay. It took me a little bit to get it. So me describing it may not be enough.
That was really amazing. Thank you so much for answering that for me. I actually understood it much better, like a lot more better from that breakdown. And I actually didn't know that a voter's vote, if that person doesn't get passed, goes on to the next person. So that's really, really cool, actually.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so Medina, did you want to ask the next question sort of about like the benefits of ranked choice voting?
Yeah, of course. I mean, hearing your responses was amazing. Like, because I have taken training of ranked choice voting, and I was still like confused, like how is this really gonna work or how it is. But after hearing it, it kind of like clear up in my mind, and I really appreciate for that. So, my next question is, so like, what are the benefits of like ranked choice voting, and specifically like who does it help?
Yeah, really good question. So I think the first group of people that are helped the most are voters. And the reason why I'm saying that is because what we found is ranked choice voting results in more majority support for the winning candidate who ultimately gets elected, compared to how we used to vote, where you just voted for one person and called it a day for each office. And I'm saying that because we would frequently see results where a candidate would win with only 33% of the vote. And another way of saying that is 67% of the people who turned out for that election didn't vote for that candidate. What ranked choice voting allows you to do is rank your top choice candidate first, but then it doesn't just end there. If that person ends up having the fewest votes, your vote can also count for your second choice or your third choice. You have more say in who gets elected. So voters love that. In other jurisdictions that have implemented ranked choice voting, that was a huge reason why people wanted to make that change and to start using ranked choice voting. The other 2 things we've seen are candidates have to ask you, the voter, for not just your first choice, but maybe even your second choice. So you'll start hearing conversations with candidates now where they'll say, vote for me first. Like no one would even be saying that normally. They'd just be saying vote for me, but they're going to be saying things like vote for me first. And if you're voting for someone else first, vote for me second or third even. So it just kind of changes the calculus. You hear from more candidates who are reaching out to you, asking for your vote, which is cool. A lot of voters seem to like that too. And then the last thing that we've seen is that in other jurisdictions that use ranked choice voting, women candidates there's more women candidates running for office, and then more women are also winning. So that's great. It's always good. In New York, I say, we were fortunate enough to have a very diverse city council, but at the citywide level, we haven't seen as much diversity, right? And that's been identified as a shortcoming. And I agree with that. We haven't had a woman mayor. We've had 2 women speakers of the city council and 2 women who've been public advocate. And then if you get into other details about diversity, like for example, in Minneapolis, the first 2 transgender council members were elected the first year they used ranked choice voting. So there's just all these opportunities to elect people who are more representative of the city on the whole. Voters love that. We're all really proud of our city and its diversity. So that's the third reason. So my answer to your question of who stands the most to benefit, voters.
Thank you for answering that. It seems to be a benefit to everybody, actually. With that said, what would you say have been some challenges that you've come across with ranked voting?
Okay, so first I would say that a challenge is just, people are afraid of new things sometimes. So it's a matter of explaining this new way of voting and helping voters to understand why they might want to rank candidates. You can still just rank one candidate. Like if you just want to vote for one person, you want to vote for your favorite candidate for first and call it a day and put your ballot in the scanner, you can certainly do that. But we want people to know why they might want to rank someone second or rank someone third or fourth or fifth. And it keeps their ballot active. It means they have more say in who gets elected. And so I think that that's a really good way of framing it to make people feel more comfortable with ranked choice voting. A lot of the rhetoric around it makes it sound like it's super complicated. For voters, it really isn't. You vote your favorite candidate first, your second favorite candidate second, your third favorite candidate third, and so on. You can stop whenever you want, and that's about it. You don't need to hand count any of the ballots behind the scenes. That's something that the City Board of Elections is in charge of, and they do a great job. You don't need to know how that happens. Most people don't know how it's tabulated right now. I don't. For single choice elections, like I know the machines are doing something, but I didn't write the code for calculating it. So I think just setting a just real basic assumption that this is simple. We're ranking people. Someone else is handling the tabulation, and you need to know that you can rank your first favorite candidate first, and that's about it. Another thing that I'll say is just we have pretty low turnout in New York in general for local elections. I was looking at this yesterday, so it's really top of mind for me. We have less than 25% turnout in primary elections for city office and around 25% for the general. So that's not that great if only a quarter of registered voters are turning out. So it's also a matter of just making sure people know that they're voting this year to begin with for local races and that we're electing our next mayor and a ton of other folks to represent us on the local level, which is hugely important.
That's really good. I actually have one more question. So with this new option of voting, how do you, I suppose, because you said we do have like lower turnouts generally in New York City. So how do you propose, or how do you think that's going to change? And based on what, like what are we going to be doing to suddenly get more votes out just because we have another option of voting, or a better option of voting, I should say?
Yeah, so this isn't proven through research because there's not that many places that have implemented ranked choice voting, but the theory behind why we needed to change from single choice to ranked choice voting a little bit has to do with the fact that voters have expressed dissatisfaction with the outcome of elections and have expressed dissatisfaction with who represents them. So the idea behind ranked choice voting, if you have to hear from more candidates, if they have to have positions on issues that you care about and don't have to just rely on their base of support to get elected, that it kind of improves the quality of the candidates that are elected. And again, this is kind of like a little bit of a wishy-washy answer because I don't have any research to point you to in that direction, but that is kind of the theory behind it, that improves the quality of candidates that are elected. They're more beholden to a larger group of their constituents who elected them. So I think that's kind of the philosophy behind that. As far as increasing turnout, that's an age-old question, I believe. In New York, we've had a lot of expansion in the ways that you can vote. So we can early vote, we can absentee vote for this year. I think all of those things are great. And the more reform that we do to make voting as easy as possible is probably the fastest way to increase turnout. That was a great question.
Thank you. That was a great answer. Thank you so much. I actually really have learned in 15 minutes. I feel much more comfortable with ranked choice voting.
Awesome. Any more questions, Olivia?
Sure. You mentioned before earlier that ranked choice voting has been implemented in like several jurisdictions. Like, may you please be specific on which jurisdictions or like, yeah,
Yeah, sure.
just to be.
Okay, so in the United States, ranked choice voting is used in 17 cities, including Minneapolis, San Francisco, and Santa Fe. But we have seen huge growth over the last couple of years. Obviously, we're starting to use it. We are the largest jurisdiction in the whole country that's going to use ranked choice voting. So that's another reason why this is so exciting. It's just we're the largest place that's gonna use it in the United States. The state of Maine, which has much fewer people than the city of New York, uses ranked choice voting to elect their statewide representatives, their federal representatives as well. And then Alaska, just a couple, well, at this point, I guess it was like a couple months ago, in 2020, they voted to use ranked choice voting for it in a similar way that Maine does on the state and federal level. So it's exciting that we're a part of that expansion for using ranked choice voting. I will also mention that ranked choice voting is used by the Academy of Arts and whatever, I forget what their name is right now, but the Academy Awards uses ranked choice voting to select their best picture winner. So it's used in a lot of places that you don't realize. And it's also used a lot internationally. So Ireland, Malta, Australia, there's a couple of places across the globe that use ranked choice voting.
Thank you so much for that. And actually, what's funny is that for our Y Vote program, we did like a presentation for like participatory budgeting. So each of our groups present something that can get funding on, and we actually did a form of ranked choice voting where we just pick like a top 5 and rank them and like see who's number 1. That completely just I didn't realize that was ranked choice voting. I was like, oh wow, this just reminded me of that. And yeah, it's amazing that like not even just in the US but also other parts in the world are also using this sort of system. So it does work. It's not like something brand new or like something that
Yeah, we're
like
not the
it's
first
unknown.
ones.
Like
That's a great point.
of course, and like there's a lot of evidence, like there's a lot of I'm sure moving on to like kind of my next question, kind of like the statistics part. And so like what's kind of like the process of like researching ranked choice voting, and like from that, where can the public, I mean those who are watching, can find this information?
Yeah, so there's a couple of national organizations that are dedicated to advocating for the use of ranked choice voting. So if you're looking for positive arguments for using it, I can point you to a couple of resources. But I think what we used the most in at the Campaign Finance Board was we had the Center for Civic Design, which is an organization that helps government design basically everything in order to be better understood by the public. So they did a bunch of focus groups and really in-depth interviews for us, testing out our ranked choice voting messaging with New York City voters. And it was a diverse spectrum of New York City voters. So they asked them, does this make sense? Do you like these reasons that we're citing for why we're using ranked choice voting? And it was a qualitative study, so that means that it was really in depth, but it was very small. So we surveyed, I think it was less than 20 voters across New York, and they gave us incredible feedback on whether they found it confusing or what pieces they needed to be explained further. So we're also planning on doing exit surveys to determine whether the voters who are coming to go vote have heard from us before they showed up at the polling place. And I think that's really important too, to be able to say, did what we tell you resonate? Did you remember hearing from us? Yeah. And then once you get to the polling place, did what was available to you there help? Like, did you understand what we were saying there?
Gotcha. Would you say there are any negatives of using ranked choice voting?
So I'll point out a couple. One, I think that is cited frequently is that you do need to keep a bit more information in your head, right? Instead of just showing up to the polling place and being like, okay, I know exactly who I'm voting for this, because you only have one name, you can only vote for one person.
Yeah.
That's less information than remembering 2 candidates' names or 3 candidates' names and remembering the order that you want to put them in. You know, if folks are voting for a lot of offices, that could get a little confusing. And I think that's there's a specific term for that, but it's like essentially that information,
Overall.
yeah, increased information retention or something like that. Yeah, it's like
Okay.
you need to remember more stuff.
That doesn't sound much like a negative to me, honestly. It's just like, okay, humans, we have to actually use most of our brains now to remember more things about more people and more choices that we prefer. So it sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's one that's cited. I think another one too, and this is not true for young voters. Young voters are very adaptable, and they can, like, you throw at them a new way of voting and they're like, this is fine, like whatever. We've only done this a couple of times now anyway. But for older voters, they're used to a certain way of voting, and so changing that way is a little can be a little tough for some folks, and making sure that they understand how to do it is a little bit challenging too. So those are 2 things that I would just cite. And of course, we're aware of those things, and we're trying to make sure that we get out ahead of it and make sure that those groups are just extra reached out to.
Ali, I'll also add on to that. We publish a nonpartisan voter guide for almost every election, which is a resource that we mail to every registered voter that you can actually take into the polling booth with you when you go to vote. So that's like another benefit for when you're going to cast your ballot.
So that's just so I can understand. It's essentially like a bit of details about each candidate to help vote. Wow, that's really great. And where can people find this information, this resource?
So ahead of the election, we publish it on the CFB's website. So right now for Council District 24 in Queens, they're having a special election on February 2nd. Our voter guide for that district is available on our website. And one other thing I just want to mention is the candidates themselves give us the information that we include on the voter guide. So that's always really fun to like see how the candidate wants to represent themselves.
Yeah, themselves.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, do you guys have any like final questions about ranked choice voting for our expert here?
I am all good. I really, really appreciate the answers. I actually feel a lot more educated and a lot more confident in ranked choice voting and the information that I have about it. So thank you so much, Ali. And the work you do.
So happy to hear it.
Yeah, I would also agree as well. I mean, I learned so much, and like it really cleared up a lot of misconceptions and also just thoughts in general, like, oh, what if this happens or this happens? And like it kind of makes sense. It's not, I think I'm making it more of a big deal than what it actually is. It's pretty much straightforward, like choosing the top. And like retaining information wise, like you mentioned how like you could just pick one, like you don't have to like just rank everybody, like just try to like, you know, utilize the candidates that are there. So I think there are just ways to like go over that challenge, and you explained it so well, so I really thank you for that.
Yeah, happy to hear it. Thank you so much for your questions. They were really great.
So I just, again, want to say thank you so much to the Department of Youth and Community Development, to YVote for working with us on this, to Madina and Abaciono, and to Ali. Just thank you so much for being here. Ali, are there any like last kind of like final comments you want to leave us with about ranked choice voting?
I think just awareness of the fact that if you live in Queens in Council Districts 24 or 31, you're first up. You're the first places where we're going to be using ranked choice voting in February. Council District 24 election is on February 2nd. And in 31, the election is on February 23rd, I believe. Yes. So just awareness about that, and to go to our website for any additional questions that you have. You can also reach out to Olivia or I directly. Olivia is her email address is definitely out there. So
Yes, absolutely. And again, like if you have questions about your voter registration status, where your poll site is, if you live in one of those council districts where there's an election, you can visit voting.nyc. Also, be sure to check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at NYC Votes. We're posting a lot of really incredible ranked choice voting visuals that are helpful for you and you can share with your community. We'll link all of those resources in the comments below. But I'll just pass it over to Madina if you have any resources from YVote that you'd like to promote.
Yeah, sure. I mean, at YVO, there's so many resources here, especially every action group. So since I'm part of Racial Justice, we share actually our own social media posts reflecting on certain topics, certain themes that reflect on us, and the other groups as well do so. So it's really cool getting to hear not just like from one side, but also many points of views and many different backgrounds. And I think it's really helpful for those who want to hear from those ideas and kind of think about on a significant topic. It's really interesting to check it out.
And for any New York City youths who would like to keep in touch and keep up to date with any events that are coming up and things that they can participate in, or essentially finding out how they can play a part in changing their community, you can follow us at NYC Votes and stay up to date that way.
Yeah, and doesn't DYCD have some events that are coming up as well?
Yes, thank you so much for reminding me. We do have MLK Day, Truth in History, that is on January 18th. That's definitely one that I can think of from the top of my head. So definitely tune in to know exactly what's going on and what we're going to be doing surrounding that.
Awesome. I know you guys are also hosting another town hall style type event called Student Rights or Human Rights with the New York City Commission on Human Rights on January 20th. And again, we'll link all of that in the comments for you guys to have. But again, just want to say thank you so much to everyone for being here. And yeah, this was great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all of this. And thank you, Olivia, as well. Thank you, Madina.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Thank
Olivia, for being our moderator.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Bye-bye.